Hello and welcome to Blessings by D. We're going to be talking about the 4 seasons that Christians seem to go through in life, and these are all pulled from the Bible. You may already have heard of some of these terms before. You may already know what these seasons are all about. We all know that life happens in seasons, but there's something very interesting. There seems to be 4 distinct seasons that seem to occur in cycles, whether that's in order or not in order, kind of like the 4 seasons, summer, autumn, winter, spring. There are 4 seasons in life that we seem to go through. I'm going to explain a little bit about each season and why we go through each season as well. So the first season is the growing season. Some people might actually call it the stretching season. In my opinion, I think the first season is usually the shortest one. If I can put it simply, just think about the times when you go through the most growth and you're stretching and you're starting to expand your knowledge and maybe revelation, understanding about yourself or the world. If I could use a few words to summarize this season, I would say change, revelation, challenges, and growth. So this is a time when you grow in knowledge, faith, wisdom, and understanding. It's usually a time of personal growth and development. This is also a time where you might be questioning things and observing things around you a bit more. So when you start to observe and start to question things, you end up getting some revelations, some epiphanies. You start growing in your knowledge and wisdom. Just in general, you're just expanding your perception of the world or the perception of yourself, perhaps. And it's usually a time where you have a new outlook on life. This may also be a time when work has slowed down a bit, or you've already been in your harvest season for a while and you're slowly coming out of it and expanding. So once again, I haven't talked about the harvest season yet, but let's just say that you're in a season where everything is going smoothly, everything is going fine, there hasn't been any changes recently, and things have been that way for a while. Eventually you get pulled out of that season and into some changes, because us as humans, when we get a little bit too comfortable, we automatically want more. So we automatically start thinking about different things, we start exploring different avenues, we start exploring our minds a bit more, we start thinking a little bit more outside of the box. And this is a time where we end up transitioning into the growing season. So we start growing again, and then there becomes to be some change and some growth, which is a natural process. It could be a time where there has been a lot of change happening in your life and you've had to make some adjustments as well. And that adjustment leads to growth, because the more we have to adapt and learn, the more we grow. The next season is called the pruning season. So the pruning season is similar to how a tree gets pruned, and it's to help shape the plant, remove dead growth, and help encourage new growth and flowers. God is known as the divine gardener or the vine dresser. He refines and shapes us for greater fruitfulness. He disciplines us and changes our circumstances to allow us to renew our strength and build our character. He prunes us from anything that will hinder our growth. It can be very painful to be pruned back, but it helps us bear more fruit. The primary indicator for this season of pruning is usually suffering and loss. A season of pruning might be the end of a relationship, losing friends, the loss of a pregnancy, financial challenges, the loss of a home, and some kind of job opportunity perhaps. You might automatically come to the conclusion that loss is bad, but without change there is no growth. Sometimes pruning is necessary even if it's hard and it makes no sense. It ultimately shapes you and strengthens you. God's ways are higher than our ways. Just know that He knows best. To summarize the pruning season in a few words, I would say it's trials, tribulations, suffering, stress, grief, reflection, and growth. Sadly, this is a time of suffering, grieving, and loss, and is usually the time when people start to pray with supplication. It helps us take time from our regular life to grieve, reflect, and strengthen our reliance on God. Sometimes this also includes stripping bad attitudes, mindsets, thoughts, and actions which will not serve you in the next season. You are being pruned of anything and everything that hinders your growth and development. The next season is the dreaded drought season. This is actually often called the wilderness season as well. Why it's called the drought season is because it's usually when you're in a season of lack and there's just a drought. But it's also called the wilderness season because a lot of the times it's filled with confusion, and just everything is still. So not only are you in a lack, but you also have nothing going on. You've just been stripped. So we were just talking about the pruning season. You were just stripped of everything in the pruning season, and now you've been led into the wilderness with nothing. So maybe you were stripped of your job, your friends, your family, your money, everything. You could have been stripped of so many things, and now you've been led into the wilderness where you have no job, no friends, nothing, and you're in isolation in the drought. And so this is a huge test of our faith and our patience. And it's a time where we usually want to take things into our own hands, but it's actually the time where we need to rely on God the most. If I was to summarize the wilderness season in a few words, I would say it's isolation, doubt, lack, wilderness, testing, angst, faith, and patience. Those are the words you're probably thinking of, feeling during that season. So it's a lot. So it's usually a transformative period involving testing, temptation, trials, humbling, purification, preparation, refinement, revelation, and patience. This time involves solitude and challenges that foster spiritual growth and dependence on God's direction. Through the wilderness, God reveals his faithfulness and grace by sustaining and guiding believers with intimate encounters that strengthen faith. This season highlights the importance of trusting in God during trials and difficulties, leading to renewal and a deeper understanding of his plan in our lives. It ultimately leads to deeper faith and reliance on God's guidance and provision. This is a time when you've just undergone a huge transformation personally and spiritually. You have just undergone pruning, development, chastisement, and now you're in a drought. Nothing is happening. Everything is still. You know God is there, but you don't hear much from him. It feels like the turmoil is over, but now you are wandering in a desert, alone, tired, dehydrated, and most likely fasting and praying. So just imagine that you were in the desert wilderness. You do not know how long you will be out there for, and you were lost with no sense of direction. You are simply waiting on God to come through and lead you, but he makes you wait. These are the final parts of the growth you go through to build your faith: trust, obedience, character, humility, resilience, patience, and hope. Initially, you don't understand what's going on. You're trying all of these different things, but you don't understand why nothing in your life is moving. You start to realize there has to be a spiritual reason. Is it a curse? Who is blocking these opportunities, and why are all the doors closed? All I can do is walk down a metaphorical hallway and just knock on each door. You do this by just trying different things and not giving up, but also not going full throttle trying to take things into your own hands, because you know that wouldn't be God's will, and it would probably not be fruitful and blow up in your face anyway. You're wondering what you're doing wrong. Everyone else in your life can see that your life is stagnant, and they begin to question you. You have already learned to seek God's guidance and direction, but he is not giving you anything. This makes you feel angst, worry, stress, confusion, doubt, concern, impatience, fatigue, a real sense of lack. You feel like God doesn't care or won't provide for you. Maybe you're just meant to suffer and be poor. You know that doesn't seem right, and you rebuke those thoughts and try to keep going, knowing that God is faithful, caring, and loves to provide for his children in due time. Eventually start to feel like maybe he has closed the doors and is making you take a test just to see if you are prepared and have the right character and faith to go where he is taking you, which is usually in the next season of growth and change. So here's just an example of what this drought period looks like. This is usually a time where you are in isolation, sometimes even without a job or friends. Anybody would be completely confused at your situation and wondering why you are going through so much suffering. They start asking you if you're okay mentally or if God is punishing you for something. The truth is, you could not be more obedient to God or more developed than you've ever been than at that moment. You are fasting, praying, repenting, avoiding sin, reading the Bible, and listening to God's direction. Maybe you're filling yourself up up with sermons and just completely avoiding everything secular, God just isn't providing yet and isn't giving you much direction or revealing the future plans. The harvest period is a mystery. It is similar to the book of Job. So he went through a lot of testing and tribulation, but he stayed patient, loyal, and eventually persevered. God eventually blessed Job twice as much as he had before. He also had people questioning him and trying to offer him advice, going against God's calling for him. No one understood. Even he didn't really understand what was going on either. But in his heart, he knew what was the right thing to do in that situation. The wilderness season is also like taking a test, where the teacher is silent and you are left to start applying all the things that you've learned. So you may try to ask the teacher what to do and cry and panic, but the teaching and guidance has already been given. The teacher cannot help anymore. They can maybe give you some encouragement, but it is your turn to see if you can remember the last directions you were given and remain steadfast in applying those principles. So this could be personal development, abstaining from sin, putting God first, regular fasting and prayer, remaining faithful, patient, and obedient. Through this wilderness season test, God reveals his faithfulness and grace by sustaining you even through the trials and giving you encouragement and assurance with a specific word which he cleverly plants in front of you at the right moments when you feel like giving up. We know that Jesus was in the wilderness season for 40 days and he was tempted by Satan in that time. He remained persistent, humble, waiting for his timing. Satan can tempt us in this time with envy, covetousness, and falling back into old patterns of sin. This is because things are so still and stagnant and you are left alone with your own thoughts. You must resist all of that and keep going. It is so easy to compare to others who are in their harvest season where there's so much change and good happening in their lives while you are staying still. Resist this also, knowing that it won't do you any good comparing. And your time is coming. God will restore your wasted years. Everything can turn around for you. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Remember that life guarantees change and there are specific seasons we all go through. No one has it perfect all the time. Take time off social media if you have to. Be happy for others because you know that you would want others to be happy for you in your good season. So practice gratitude, humility, and patience. We need to remember that in this time, we need to be still, patient, and take captive any of those negative feelings, remain steadfast in our faith and good works, and prepare for the next season. That could be rest, meditation, journaling, fasting, prayer, and getting fit with your diet and exercise. Don't feel bad because in the next season, things can move drastically and you'll be grateful that you had the time to rest and prepare. You want to make sure that you pass the test and don't prolong it. So whatever you feel called to do, even if that means nothing or even if it makes no sense, just do it. You don't want to look back with regret and have that season be in vain. Learn and apply the lessons and wait for your timing. Remember that God will provide a means and a way for you at just the right time. Sometimes it's also good to remember that the harvest season is so close now. God will recompense and bring forth so many blessings for you. So this is the fourth and final season and it's called the harvest season. So if I was to summarize this in a few words, I would say recompense, joy, and abundance. Finally, the harvest season comes at a time when you least expect and in a way in which you least expect. God moves quickly, abundantly, and unexpectedly. So there are many verses that convey the analogy of the harvest season, talking about sowing and reaping, the urgency of spiritual readiness, the divine timing of God's judgment and restoration. The imagery of harvest encourages believers to be faithful workers in God's vineyard, eagerly awaiting the fruit of their labor and the fulfillment of God's promises. So now you are reaping everything that you've sown. So you sowed in tears, you sowed in good works, you sowed in faith. You sowed in prayer and fasting, and now God is recompensing. You've sown in pain, and God is recompensing. So this is the most exciting season because sometimes it can be a miracle. You could have been struggling in those previous seasons for such a long time that it required a miracle from God to get you out of it. And He poured out His love and His faithfulness into this miracle, this supernatural provision in your life. I've heard so many testimonies about it, and it's absolutely wonderful. Here's something that I was thinking, being in that wilderness season of maybe I'm being prepared, and maybe the harvest season is not going to be some kind of miracle. Maybe more realistically, maybe the harvest season just means that you're exiting the wilderness season and going back out into the world. You're spiritually ready, mentally ready, and physically ready to get to work. And so harvesting, if you're thinking about harvesting fruits from a plant, it's a lot of labor. It's a job actually with a shortage of workers. It is so hard. Nobody wants to do that job. It's a lot of hard work picking the fruits. So using that analogy, it can sometimes mean that you have to go back to work and that you put in the work to gain that harvest, but you'll be grateful that you even have that job opportunity now. So you're probably praying for that job and God finally granted you that job. So it's basically sowing and reaping. It's restoration. It's recompense. It's you getting the fruit of your labor and God fulfilling His promises to you. So a lot of the times it's also said that in the wilderness season, we're waiting on our promised land. Some people get a promise from God that He will help, and sometimes it's a specific promise. So they're waiting on that specific promise from God. In the harvest season, that's when you're in the promised land. So that's when everything that God promised that He would do for you, and you had faith and you were waiting, He provided. So it could be a miracle, it could be a blessing, it could be a job, it could be a new relationship, it can be just more things happening in your life. You're no longer hindered, you're no longer stagnant. You are finally going out there and getting it, going out there and making it all happen. And with that, you have learned the valuable lessons, how important it is to give credit and glory to God, and how important it is to remind yourself to rely on God. That is the main thing that He teaches us in all of those other seasons, is that you need to rely on God. God isn't just there for our salvation. He is there to help us every single step of the way. Every single day of your life, He's there to help you. Before you do anything and everything, you pray to Him, because He is there to help you. And we're here on earth to develop a relationship with Him. So when we're developing the relationship, we grow in our reliance on Him like a father. We're His children and He is our Father. He's our provider, protector. He makes things happen and He helps us. Now we know not to neglect God. We know that He is there with us, and we've been tried and tested and refined by fire. So we have been purified, we have built our character, and now we are made new in this new season. And each time we grow more and more and more, life is everlasting growth. And so usually it's a big journey of growth, and then we go into the harvest season and then we grow some more. One last thing that I wanted to mention as well, there are spiritual warfare attacks to look out for in each of these seasons. We know that Jesus was tempted in the wilderness by Satan himself. So we are also tempted, not just in the wilderness season, we're tempted in all the different seasons. Usually in the wilderness season, a little bit worse, because at that time we're probably the most fatigued, we're the most vulnerable and emotional. So that's probably why Satan usually succeeds in that wilderness season, and that's why people stay in it for so long, because God doesn't want to bring you out of it until He sees that you have trust and faith, and until He sees that you've learnt the lesson and that you build your character so that you can go into the next season. He doesn't want to see you get squashed in the harvest season, because in the harvest season you are no longer hidden. God sustains you and hides you from everyone else, all of the distractions. In that wilderness season, you were hidden from distractions, from the enemy. You were hidden. You were sheltered. You are under God's precious wings, and He's looking after you. But when you go out to the harvest season, people are gonna start noticing you. You're gonna start glowing. You're gonna have that light. You are gonna be in the spotlight. A light on a hill cannot be hidden. So here are the things that Satan usually tempts us with, and that's confusion, distraction, thoughts, temptations, so to sin and things like that, and then also fatigue. He also can use like health problems, so maybe giving you like headaches or more severe health problems. He might give you mental health problems like depression, feeling down, feeling sad, feeling defeated. And that's why that verse says that if you faint not, then you will reap a harvest. Just don't give up. Don't wear yourself out. Don't allow yourself to wear out, and keep going. Don't give up. Don't lose heart. You will reap the blessing. God loves us. He loves you, and He will always provide. So look out for confusion, distraction, thoughts, temptation, fatigue, and health problems. Look out for those things. Pray against those things. Rebuke any negative thoughts. Rebuke anything bad. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Just keep resisting, keep worshiping God, keep praising God. Even if you don't feel like it, just do it. You'll feel loads better and God's comfort will surround you. So pray, read the word, and make sure that you keep your focus on God, tunnel vision on God, and don't allow anything that contradicts His word to get the better of you in these seasons. I'll just give you a few examples. So in the growing season, temptation can be growing in the knowledge of things that aren't aligning with the word of God. So in that growing season, it could lead you down the wrong path potentially, right? The pruning season, where things are getting removed from you, that could lead to a lot of like depression. It could lead you to feel desperation. It can lead to a lot of emotions. The wilderness season also leads to a lot of emotions, but it can also make you act out in rebellion or desperation. So be very careful in the wilderness season that you don't try to take things into your own hands. You don't try to do something illegal to get yourself out of that situation. You don't sin. You don't change your ways. You just rely on God and wait on Him, and He will pull you out. He won't leave you or forsake you. He hasn't forgotten about you. He's just staying silent while you're taking the test. In the harvest season, when everything is going well and you're forgetting about God, maybe things are going so well, you're leaping in joy, you're enjoying the harvest season with whatever's going on. Maybe things are really busy. Maybe you're flourishing with heaps of friends and family around you. Maybe you have an exciting new job opportunity. Maybe you've launched a business of some sort. Maybe there's been all these different things that have been happening in your life, and you've noticed that your time with God has been less. If you haven't been spending as much time with God, that also gives place for the devil to try to creep in again. He can give you gentle temptations. He can give you little nudges, little thoughts, and you won't even see them coming because you're so busy in your harvest season. You're happy that things are finally not stagnant and you're all wrapped up in it. So it's very important that even in the harvest season that you stay humble, that you rely on God. You don't forget about Him, because if you forget about Him in the harvest season, He's going to pull you back out of that harvest season. The Lord gives and He takes away. So if He sees that you're forgetting about Him, then He's going to take that away from you. And that's not an evil thing. It's what a father would do to discipline you, because He knows best. God is our salvation. God is our creator. We need Him. It's not in our best interest to be away from God. It's not in our best interest to put Him aside. We need Him here on earth, and we need Him when we die. We need Him to help protect us from the enemy's tactics. We need Him for our salvation. We need Him for our help to even flourish in the harvest season, because when we're doing all of these things, He's the one making it happen. He's the one giving you strength. He's the one giving you comfort. He's the one giving you the ideas. So rely on Him. Don't forget about Him. And remember that you got this. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Remember that. Fill yourself up with the word. Keep reading comforting verses. Keep reading any verses that bring you comfort. So those were the 4 seasons that we go through as Christians. Let me know down in the comments if you have been in any of those seasons, if you could recognize any of them. I was really excited to share this word with you. I'm excited to see your comments. If you've gone through something similar, I would love to hear your stories. Just remember that whatever season you're in, to be grateful and to be patient. Be patient with God, rely on God, put Him first. Put God above everything else. I hope that was some comfort and reassurance that everything's going to be okay no matter what season you're in. It's all normal. We all go through them. There's a season of suffering and then there's a season of joy, and we all go through all of those seasons. So don't worry, don't fret, hold on. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it so much. If you liked this video, please give it a like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with a friend. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. God bless you all.